Hey, I'm Claire,
And I'm Janice.
and this is The X-Files, a podcast about breakups, broken hearts, and moving on.
We are breakup coaches here to help you beat your breakup
Heal your broken heart.
and move on to an amazing, abundant life. Welcome, everyone, to this week's episode of X-Files. This is a really cool episode, so I'm excited to dive into it. And I'm excited that we have a resident expert on the topic. Before we get started, though, as we often do, we just want to thank everyone who's been listening, everyone who's been providing us really great feedback, everyone who's been DMing us with their breakup questions, and we are just absolutely loving it. And yes, and if you want to spread the love, we would love it if you'd leave us a review on Apple Podcasts. We haven't really asked for that before, and we thought it might be a good time to do so because we are getting quite a few messages, and we love them. And, some people could almost pop the same message almost into an Apple review, really.
Yeah, and it really helps us because the more reviews you get, the more it shows people who might be interested. And if you guys are loving it, then we want more people like you to be getting the support that we're just sending out into the universe. So, if you're loving it and you have a couple minutes, just hop on over to Apple Podcasts. I know Spotify doesn't do reviews, but literally the way it works, Apple feeds into every other platform because of course it's Apple.
I know they're still kind of the queen bee, aren't they?
Everything. Yeah. So even if you don't listen on Apple, if you could go over there and just say, hey, this podcast is great.
Yep.
If
it
you think
helps
it's
me.
great.
I enjoy
if you don't
listening.
think it's great, then
Yes, if you for sure. If you're not
why
loving
are you here?
This doesn't apply to you.
Yeah.
All
exactly.
right. So thank you so much. And we appreciate it. And we also appreciate you letting us say that on an episode.
Yeah.
So let's
thank
get into
you.
it.
That out of the way. Here we go with today's topic.
Pets and breakups.
Yes, pets.
So
and
why
breakups.
are we talking about this? So first of all, in both our personal lives and in our practice, we have seen pets play an interesting role in breakups.
Yeah. When you have a pet, they're playing a major role in the
good, bad, ugly, everything in between. We have had listener questions about this. So a few weeks ago, I actually put kind of on my list of ideas, we need to get someone who is an expert in this area to talk about the right and wrong ways to go about dealing with a pet after a breakup. And of course, I already knew that Claire was a bit of an expert in pets and rehousing and all of that. But somehow it kind of slipped my mind. And when we were chatting one day, we thought, well, let's just have Claire come on and be interviewed about pets and breakups. So I'm really excited that you have so much insight into this area. And I think it's going to be an episode that'll help a lot of people.
Yes, I think so. Definitely. Because we love our pets. We make a lot of sacrifices for them and, they improve our lives in so many ways. And it's just kind of a part of the territory when you are going through a breakup, that if there are, other family members, aka pets, then, that's going to put a lot more complication into that. So professionally, I consider myself an expert in this. I worked at a nonprofit animal shelter for 4 years. I saw about, 2,000 pets during that time find new homes. And that's quite a low number actually for 4 years.
Okay.
Yeah. So other shelters are seeing a lot more pets than that, finding new homes. So I've seen basically any circumstance you can think of. I've seen it happen with people having to find new homes for their pets. And
a lot of breakups.
Yeah,
probably.
Yeah, actually. So, a lot of things we're going to talk about breakups and separation. We're going to talk about what to do if you're experiencing domestic violence, how to work the system of sheltering, what sheltering is really like, other alternatives, how to keep your pet, even if you're like, I don't know how to do this. We're going to talk about it all because I've coached a lot of people through this as a professional at the shelter. And so I'm excited to bring this to the podcast.
Yeah, I love it. And we'll
Yeah.
also touch on how to go about things responsibly when you decide you want to get a pet with your lover.
There's a ton of information here that I felt needed to be shared, even though right now it might not apply to your breakup. It will help you in the future. So as you go into new relationships and possibly get a pet, then, if you don't have a pet yet and you're not in this situation, please keep listening because a lot of the stuff that I'm about to share will help you down the road.
Oh my God, the anticipation.
Yeah,
I love it. I think it's important. And yeah, some people who see the topic might not think it applies to them, but this really is a make or break situation with so many people's breakups. And I've seen it cause a lot of heartache. I've seen it cause people guilt and shame and stress and everything. And I think it's good to talk about. I don't think it's something that we probably talk about enough.
Yeah.
So, and I actually also went through this. I had to rehome some pets after my divorce, and I very rarely bring it up because it was so traumatic. I probably won't bring it up very many more times, but
that's okay.
Yes. But I do want to say that I understand very intimately the complication and the pain and stress that having pets in a breakup can cause. And I have a lot of compassion for the people who deal with this. And I want to help others who went through what I went through. So
yeah,
glad
exactly.
to do this.
Yeah. And I experienced this personally as well. With my ex-fiance, together we had a dog and two cats. Yeah. So, in that situation, I mean, I'll be talking about how to manage this in your situation, but when we adopted those animals, each time we made an adoption, we already knew whose pet it was. And so, the cats were mine, the dog was his, and we stuck with that when we did go through the breakup. So we had that plan in advance. And though it was heartbreaking to, not see the dog anymore, and for him to not see the cats anymore, because we did very much like share caring for them and
I hope so.
everything. Yeah, totally.
Cats are a lot of work. And now you've added one to your family.
Yeah, I've added one since then. So
Claire's a mother to 3 adorable and
cats.
gorgeous cats.
I know. Yeah. So I'm a cat. It's an occupational hazard of working at an animal shelter is you end up with a lot of animals. So yeah. So
we're going to dig into all of that. Okay, I have more questions about this, but we'll get into it later. All right. So given that you are the sort of you are the resident expert here, I thought we could go through some of the main things that people struggle with when pets are involved in a relationship and in a breakup and a move and all of that.
Yes.
And I know that it just plays such a big role in overall happiness. Learning how to deal with this, especially when you have to completely cut off contact with a pet, because we do say, no contact with your partner is the best thing under many circumstances, and that a pet is not really the best reason to keep in touch. So let's maybe start with that, because we are such big advocates for the no contact thing. So if there is a pet who is going to be staying with your partner for whatever reason, what is the impact on the animal?
Yeah. So many of the people I've spoken with who've asked me questions about this in terms of their breakup, their concern is with the pet's well-being.
Yeah.
They're like, will they miss me? Will they, pine away? And from what I've seen personally with people relinquishing animals at the shelter is that, I realized I didn't mention this either. My mom's a dog trainer. So I've
All
always
right.
had like 4 or 5 dogs at a time
You are
since I
bringing a
was born.
lifelong
So,
expertise to
yeah.
the table
I like
here.
to say I was raised by wolves because I was
Oh
basically
my.
one of the pack, you know?
Oh, that's so cool.
So just the single human with a
Mm,
bunch of dogs.
so
Um,
interesting.
so yeah. So I've also done a lot of training on dog psychology and and I'm talking mostly about dogs and cats here. I feel like those are like typically the domesticated animals people are dealing with when they're worried about like their well-being. I
Hmm.
don't think your iguana is going to miss you. It's going to be
Or tarantula.
or
You're
your
not gonna have you're
tarantula.
not
They're
gonna have
just like whatever.
visitation
Yeah. So, you may miss them, but they're
Mhm.
they're in a different sort of existence.
Different
Um
mindset.
yeah. So I want to tell you 100% your dog, your cat, they will not forget you. And if they see you again, they will definitely recognize you. You're not erased from their past. However, they will not miss you. They're just happy for human attention of any kind. They'll be happy if they see you, they'll be excited, they'll there will be some confusion if you're coming in and out of their life with no sort of um like rhyme or reason.
So you're saying
um
that it might actually be better to not have the contact rather
exactly.
than do the
Yeah,
I'm going to take them one day a month or one day a week or
exactly.
any type of various arrangements that I am very familiar with
Yeah,
that people try. Oh,
yeah.
so it's actually even
It's
better.
yeah,
Oh,
it might be better to not have that contact at all.
gotcha.
Um,
Okay.
it just really depends where you get to with your partner, because
Mhm.
coming in and having a bad relationship with your partner and forcing interaction and all those
Right.
emotions, your animal will pick up on those, and it will be stressful for them to just go through
Mm-hmm.
like an
Mm-hmm.
afternoon of you fighting with your partner so that you can see your dog.
Mm-hmm.
So that's kind of like a nuanced thing, but I just want to like tell you, hey, you were a big part of their life. That will not be forgotten. They would recognize you if they saw you, but your absence, as long as they're getting taken care of humanely and properly, they are going to be just fine. Your absence is not going to cause them to like spiral into like a depression or anything like that. Um,
And so one
so
something that someone told me when I had to rehome my pets was that, these domesticated animals are very resilient and
yeah.
adaptable. And if they do have their needs met and some care, that they
Mhm.
can, adapt to the changes
Exactly. Yeah.
better than a child would
Yeah.
or a human. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, just like you will eventually start dating someone new, so too can pets like find a new owner and,
Mhm.
be with that person and have a loving home. So just know like they are going to be okay. They're going to be okay. And during this time, you need to make decisions for yourself and focus on that. So,
So what if though the person who is not going to be with the pet, what
mhm.
should they do with their missing of the animal?
Oh, yeah. I mean,
Mhm.
that's going to be something to process, just like
Mhm.
you're processing the loss of your
Of the
ex.
partner. Yeah.
It's just like allowing yourself to feel those feelings, and it is extremely hard,
Yeah.
and
Mhm.
just like making sure to like ground into remembering that they're going to be just fine, and that
Yep.
they're like the memories that you have of them are still beautiful and wonderful, and you have those even if you can't see the animal. um
It's probably better for you
yeah.
also. This is a chapter of your life that you probably, if you're listening, need to close. And even if that means closing, a chapter of your life in which there was a pet you loved.
Yeah, and
Mm.
this is one only one angle. We'll cover the angle of if you're the one keeping the pet as well.
Right.
So
Yep. Okay.
this is just if the ownership is with
Your
your
ex.
ex, and
Uh-huh.
they will be keeping the animal what to do
Mhm.
about it, and like how, just like offering you the reassurance that your pet is going to be okay, in that you don't have to worry so much about like how your absence is going to affect their well-being. So just
Awesome.
putting
That's
that
is a good
out there
point. Yeah.
first. Yeah.
Yes. All right. So let's talk about ownership in the beginning. Like, let's go back to the beginning of the story in which this animal was involved.
Yeah.
Hindsight is a difficult thing to cope with in a relationship for so many reasons. Coulda, shoulda, woulda is a big thing that people deal with. And this is especially true when
Mhm.
you're processing a breakup, trying to limit contact with your ex, um, dealing with emotions, and when there's an animal that you love who is in the
Yeah.
care or in the mix of all of this.
Yeah,
Um,
exactly.
it just adds such another layer of complication, like I already said. And I've mentioned on this show that I wish that couples would just completely avoid the pet thing altogether, because I've just seen it go wrong in the end. And you don't think this when you're doing it,
No. Yeah.
So at the same time, I'm a animal person. I don't have any now, but I know that they can add lots of joy in your life. And as a couple, it can be a really great thing to bond over.
Yes.
It can allow you to kind of have the family experience without kids. It can add to your family if you have kids. But I am sure, given all of the sob stories that I've heard through the years, including mine, that there's ways to do it mindfully and responsibly.
Yeah.
So if you get with a partner again and you guys want to get a pet, what are some responsible ways to go about it?
Yeah, so this is one of the things that's going to be helpful for going into the future. So if you don't have a pet yet, listen up right now.
Circle
There's a
back.
lot of nuance here, and just like I just want to address what you said, how you wish couples would just avoid the pet thing altogether.
Mhm.
I kind of agree.
Okay.
Um, in one like word of that sentence,
Mhm.
couples
Uh-huh.
should avoid the pet
Right.
thing together. You
Yes.
do not co-own an animal. Even if you're like in a marriage, there is one person always, I think,
This
who should
is,
have precedence.
I think that you will get pushback on this, or at least people will be thinking in their minds that this isn't
Yeah.
true. Because when a couple is going to get a pet, most people would never think of it in those terms at
Yeah.
all. And you
Yeah.
wouldn't even want to have the conversation who's the actual, in quotes, owner.
Yeah.
But it's true. I love that you just said that. I want to
Yeah,
like
exactly.
make a little graphic
And here's the
with that.
thing. Here's the thing. You got to be able to have uncomfortable conversations with your partner. And I think about it this way. So, right, you should, it's the same as having like a prenup going into a marriage.
Oh my God.
Some people don't believe in keeping their like resources separate or having a prenup, but I think it's romantic that you would both choose to be together, even if there are no financial like repercussions to breaking up or, any of these things. Like with a pet, like you're not staying together for something other than the fact that you just love this person. Like
Okay.
the love that you have together, that's the reason you're together. It's not because, oh, I don't know what I'll do financially afterwards, or I don't know what will happen with the pet. It's like you
Yeah.
will know
Yeah.
what's going to happen with the pet if you have a plan in the first place.
Mhm.
And having a plan and not being like, oh, we're going to break up eventually, but being like, hey, we both are on the same page about what we think would be responsible for the breakup. Not saying the breakup's ever going to happen, but just knowing that you're both adult enough to have that conversation. And if you are trying to have that conversation and your partner is giving you pushback and saying, we don't need to talk about something like that, like we're going to be together forever, can't believe you would bring something like that up, and they're starting to go on the defensive, that's a huge fucking red flag.
Yeah, very
Like,
true.
yeah.
True. And I also think that what you're saying is communication is sexy. So do
Yeah.
more of it.
Do more of it, even if it's
Okay.
awkward. Like,
Why? Go ahead.
yeah. So that all of that clarified, I believe that when you are going into like deciding to adopt a pet, and I keep saying adopt because I want you to fucking adopt. I don't want you to
Aw.
go to a breeder.
Oh my
Sorry.
God. So
Um
I really love wait, what are they called? No.
rescue.
What are the cute
Oh,
uh
do they
what
have scrunchy faces?
yeah, what is
French
very
bulldogs?
the Frenchies. Yeah.
Frenchies.
So I
Yeah.
really, really love Frenchies, like
Yeah.
so much. I house and pet sat for a Frenchie when I was in Melbourne for like 6 months,
Hmm.
and he was oh, such an amazing pet,
Yeah.
amazing companion. I loved it. It was a beautiful experience. And so I've looked into getting them, and it's troubling
Yeah.
to say the least.
Yeah.
Yeah, for so many reasons.
So many
The
reasons.
industry, the cost makes me feel like there's something icky about it.
Yeah.
I
What
yeah, I'm
happens to
not
the
sure.
mother,
Yeah,
you
yeah, you're
know?
right. So many questions. It's crazy. So I have recently looked into adopting. I think it's a little
Yeah.
harder to adopt a Frenchie, but we'll see
It's
what
I
happens.
mean, it's not going to be like you can walk into a shelter and find one
Mhm.
like typically. That said, we got all sorts of breeds at
Yeah,
the
so
shelter.
I'm
So,
also really into Chihuahuas
yeah, there's
because
lots of chihuahuas.
I grew up with them. Yeah, and apparently so they trended, for a number of years, and so many people got them.
Yeah.
And now there's a lot, there's even Chihuahua adoption agencies that
Yes.
were because a lot of people aren't wanting them, which I think is sad. They're actually really
Yeah.
lovely pets. I don't like that they have a bad reputation.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's another thing. So, just okay, couple points here because I don't want to like leave loose ends.
Okay,
So,
I'll be quick.
number one, if you want a specific breed, there are specific breed rescues. You can contact
Right.
them and get on a wait list so that the next time they find, the golden doodle or the Frenchie, you'll be top of the list, and you can get a wonderful animal who is out of a home,
Oh.
and is exactly what you wanted. So
Oh, so
yeah.
if you're saying, okay, so in my case, with a little bit of patience,
Yeah, there's
perhaps.
some
Oh,
patience,
okay.
but
Okay.
having an animal is a long-term commitment. So I think you should be able to exercise some patience when you're looking for
Yeah.
the right one. Come on
Mhm.
now. Okay, number two, trends of dog breeds is a thing. So anytime you see something in pop culture blow up, like the Frenchies from Modern Family, and then there were Huskies
Oh,
from
I actually
Game of
hadn't made the
Thrones.
connection.
There were
And
Dalmatians back in the day from
and
101
Chihuahuas
Dalmatians,
because
Legally
of
Blonde.
yes, and even
Yeah,
Taco Bell. I mean,
exactly.
we had them growing up, and we couldn't even walk down the street. I
Yeah.
remember we took our dog to San Francisco, and we were walking, going along, and people were like coming out of the restaurants to see
Yeah.
that. I mean, they were really popular for a
Very popular.
while.
So people get like mass hysteria over like a
Yeah.
certain breed. And what happens is that a
Mhm.
year or two later, the shelters start filling up with that type of dog, especially with Game of Thrones, because huskies are not easy animals to have.
I wouldn't
So
think
people would
so.
get this, adorable little dire
Oh,
wolf look-alike, and a year later they'd be like, "I've gone through 3 couches and I don't know what to do anymore."
right. A pet is
Yeah,
not a toy. It is a
yeah,
huge commitment and
yeah.
so much to consider.
Yeah. So
Uh-huh.
just, if you're really into the Huskies because you're like just watched Game of Thrones, like check the shelters. I guarantee there's like 10 of them in there like at
Yeah.
any point. So,
Mhm.
anyways,
No,
I
really, really, really
will
good
be
points.
hopping on and off of my soapbox during
I'm
this
happy to. I
episode.
think this is great.
Yeah. So when you are adopting, taking it back, when you are adopting, have a plan. Who is this animal going to truly belong to? And like, I want to be progressive here. We can call yourself a pet parent, a caretaker,
Yeah.
but legally you are an owner and they are property legally.
Really good points to make
Yeah.
also.
So,
Really good points to make. They are
according to
not
the law,
children.
it's
Mhm.
like debating who owns the desk,
Oh,
as
far
sad
out.
as that is.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
So when you're planning to adopt, who has ownership? And when you're deciding this, it could be like, oh, who has family in the area that the dog is going to stay with when you're going out of town, things like that. like that was a big deal with me and my ex-fiance. My parents weren't in town, so the dog would always stay with his parents when we went out of town. And so when we broke up, I didn't have anywhere in the area that I could, have someone watch my dog. You don't necessarily need that. You can pay someone to do that, but it was just he had more resources for caring for a dog than I did at that point.
So you're saying in your situation, you hadn't
Mhm.
had the conversation when you got the dog
We
about
did.
who's,
We
oh,
did.
okay, okay,
Yeah,
okay.
we did, but it also like looking at like out long
Okay,
term over
okay.
the years, like we knew that his parents would be watching the dog when we were out of town, things like that. So, he just had like a larger support network.
Mhm.
Um, you know, I could have paid for someone to watch my dog, not a
Yeah,
problem.
and just so you know,
But
like house sitting is a definite thing. People like to
yeah,
go and stay at your house and watch your pet when you go out of
yeah,
town. And I do
exactly.
think it's important, and it's something that people don't consider when they get animals, is what's going to happen when we travel. And I mean, you
Yes.
do need to at least know this.
Yeah, you need to know this. You need to know also like your work situation. If someone is working from home, they're going to be able to let the dog out and take them for walks throughout the day. If you're working, 60-hour weeks, a
Mhm.
dog is, unless it's a senior, and I highly encourage you to adopt a senior dog, that's not going to go down very well.
Right. Yeah, the
So,
Frenchie I had was a senior.
oh,
He was a dream.
oh my
Yeah, very well
gosh.
behaved and sweet. And
Yeah.
all right. Okay, go on.
Yeah, so just like work out those logistics before you even walk into the shelter and choose an animal,
And so, because you're a cat person, I guess I
Yeah.
should say, would you want to have a conversation with your partner about who is going to do the bloody litter box
Yeah.
and how often?
Yeah. That was a thing too, like if your partner's like, I will not touch the litter box, that's a good thing to
People,
know about your
yes,
partner.
and don't get, I mean,
Uh,
unless you want to be doing it all the time, I think it's a horrible chore, but it's got to be done. I
it's
mean,
got to
it's
be done.
abusive to the cat to not do it, right?
Well, and also they'll start peeing places
Yeah,
outside of the
so
litter
you need
box.
to, yeah, from who's
Yeah.
gonna have it if we're not together to who's gonna actually do the
Yeah,
dirty
do the
work.
care. And it can be that like, oh, we're going to equally split the care, and have that be the thing, but also know who at the end of the day is the person responsible for that animal. And this can also like take into account finances as
Mhm.
well. Like maybe you are going to like split the cost during your partnership, but if you're breaking up, you just want to have these conversations ahead of time, even if they're awkward, and there's ways to like make it, like have some EQ, and and you can
Yeah.
like plan this
Oh, I
out
know these
and
things
be
are
like,
tough, but
yeah, but it's better to have the conversation now before you're going into it and find out, oh, your partner doesn't want to pick up poop. They don't want to pay for veterinary bills, but they're the one who brought up being the like getting the dog in the
I
first
know,
place.
I
And it's
know. And
like, wait, hang on.
it just brought to mind that I think people, when they get past a certain point in the relationship, maybe the 6 month mark, even maybe the 1 year mark, you get really excited about living together and coupling in your future. And this is where people start to get really excited about, oh, wouldn't it be fun if we, started a dog family? And
Yeah.
I think though that you really need to be with someone for a while, know what they're like as far as sharing
And have those
responsibilities go.
conversations.
Yeah, and
Yeah. I
see
mean,
first, I mean, with the housework, for instance, live with
yeah.
someone for a while,
Housework,
see how
childcare.
they,
Yeah.
yep, yeah,
Yeah.
see how they keep to their commitments, see how things go down with keeping the place as clean as you'd like, and then maybe consider what this
Yeah.
person's going to be like to share a pet with.
Yeah, exactly. And you can always foster in the meantime. Huge
I
proponent
want
of
to talk about this at the
fostering.
end. I
Yeah.
really want to get
So
back to fostering.
yeah.
Okay, Claire. So we've talked about when you're getting a pet. All right. Be
Mhm.
responsible. Talk about these things. Be realistic. Be practical. All of it. So you get the pet. Everyone's loving it. The relationship breaks down.
Mhm.
All right. So what? Many couples may not have had the conversations that we've just touched on.
Yeah.
So where do you start with figuring out the logistics of the quote parental agreement? What's a good way to go about coping with this after a breakup?
Yeah. I mean, so it starts with having a civil conversation and,
Mm.
trying to get outside of yourself a little and, put aside your own feelings about potentially not seeing this animal anymore and being realistic about your own resources, your own plans for the future, and that sort of thing. So take into account who has the finances to care for this pet solo, who
Mm.
took the most responsibility in time or money for the pet in the
Yeah.
past years. That was a tricky thing um, uh, for me with my ex-fiance is that Jesse the dog always came to work with me. So
Oh.
he was never left alone at home because I worked at an animal shelter. I could
Oh.
take my dog to work. It was
Huh.
super
And he
acceptable.
just
And so
play during the day?
yeah, he stayed in my
Oh.
office and he would mostly sleep all day.
Oh,
But
I see.
like I would take him out at lunch and everything. So I
That's
put a
cool.
lot of time
Mm.
into my dog. So that was a
Right.
consideration for my ex was where is he going to go during the day now that he's not going to work with Claire?
Mm.
So yeah, so that was just one consideration, but also, if you're if you don't know what your future plans are, you're like, fuck, I might go to Bali for 6 months,
Yeah.
you're not taking a dog with you to Bali. I can pretty
No,
much guarantee
no,
that's not
no,
gonna
that is
happen.
not a thing. People,
Yeah.
no.
Yeah, so if you have plans for international long-term travel, what is going to happen to that animal while you're gone?
Yeah.
Can you manage that? Do you have someone that your dog can stay with for 6 months? And better
This
be
is,
sure that that is solid
yeah,
if
this
you're
is a
going to
good
take over
point.
ownership. Yeah.
Because I think after a relationship ends, a lot of people like myself say, I want to make really big life changes.
Yeah.
I want to do things that I couldn't have done with my ex or being with my ex.
Yeah.
And so you need to be honest with yourself and honest about what's best for the pet. And if having a pet is now compatible with this new fun jet setting life that you want,
Yeah.
or if it's just going to hold you down and cause you stress
Yeah.
and not be good for them either.
Yeah, and it might be that you are willing to make those sacrifices. Like for example, I'm a dual citizen. I could have up and gone to England and been like, "Fuck yeah, I'm living in a new country now." But I have cats and I was like, I this is a sacrifice I'm willing to make. I'm going to stay in the United States
Mhm.
and I'm going to make sure, not that you can't move with your animals, but it makes it so much harder.
Yeah.
So much harder. And God, like it's just like a whole stressful thing for the animals themselves. Like they don't
Mm.
want to go on a plane and spend 3 months in quarantine where you're not allowed to visit them.
Wow.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you got to think about these things. Also, if you have a bully breed or I mean they call them aggressive breeds, but that is not what they are.
Yeah.
Um working breeds
Mhm.
like German shepherds.
Is
Okay.
a pit bull one
Yeah, so a pit bull,
or Rottweiler?
Rottweiler, that would be
Mhm.
another one. So pit bulls aren't a breed, it's a type of dog. So it can be any of 5 different breeds and then the crosses thereof. So
All
you
right.
can yeah, so the more you know. Um
So,
but yeah, you can like loosely group a bunch of dogs into the pit bull type.
gotcha. All right.
Boxers would be another one, but a lot of different states have different laws, cities have different laws. Denver, for example, it's illegal to have a pit bull here, so it's like a whole thing.
And
But just keep in mind that you may be in a very progressive area right now, and if you're moving to somewhere that isn't so progressive in terms of like breed labeling, you might have trouble finding housing. You might have to, um, like there's just a lot of considerations.
yep.
So,
Yep.
like if those are responsibilities you want to take on, you can. I firmly believe that if you love your pet, you'll find the money, you'll find the time, you'll make any sacrifice necessary, but know that there's going to be sacrifices.
Yeah, well, not just loving it, just determining what your priorities are.
Yeah.
If
Yeah,
you're at a
exactly.
certain time in your life when you really want to say, I'm gonna, let myself travel for 5 years,
Yeah.
I think that's okay. I don't think it means you don't love your pet.
Yeah,
I
no, no,
think
no,
you're
no.
making
So sorry I
priorities.
said it
No,
like that. Yeah, you
it's
can
okay.
love
It's all
your
right.
pet and very
And
lovingly
want the
find them a
best for
new
them.
home.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's good that you also brought up the housing thing, because after a breakup, you might stay with a friend, you might
Yeah.
get a much smaller place than you had before. And I've
Uh-huh.
seen people, it's like, go into an apartment that was a fraction of the size and be so determined to take their animal.
Mhm.
But, is that even the best for your pet?
It just
You know?
depends
Mhm.
on what you're gonna
Yeah.
do to make it work, because you can totally make a small apartment work. Like, these animals have evolved to be
Mhm.
with humans in
Okay.
human
Okay.
situations.
Mhm.
However, you need to make sure that you're giving them what they need in order to thrive in that environment. And that might be
Yep.
5 times a day walking, depending on how
Right.
energetic your dog is. You
Mhm.
can make it work. But if you know that you're trying to blend a 60-hour work week with a small apartment with your 2-year-old husky, I can tell you that's going to be really, really hard.
Yeah, I've had frustration with people in the past who were so determined to be the ones who kept the dogs, but then never walked them. And
Yeah.
I mean, I know people get into situations with pets that are really, really tricky, but that's also something to consider. How
Yeah.
often can you give them the exercise they need?
Exactly.
Mm.
And it's hard, but you have to take your ego out of it and be
Yeah.
realistic. And also, like, you know, in that situation, think about what your life may be gaining by being able to step back from your ego and be like, you know what? I think, yes, my ex would be a better owner long term. And that means that even though I have this sadness, this extra sadness to deal with on top of everything else, it means that I have more options now. I have
Yeah.
like, so it's really hard. Like I've definitely I think in this episode there's a risk that I may come across as kind of cold and
No,
like
no,
matter
not to
of
me.
fact.
Mm.
Yeah,
But
so
it
I
is
just
matter of
want to,
fact. And that's the
yeah.
problem. That is why people are in miserable situations, is because they attach all these emotions and
Yeah.
all of these assumptions about the animal and all of this ego and pride and
Mhm.
wishing that things were different. And you need to take all of that out of it and be
Mhm.
very practical and matter of fact and black and white about it.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I mean, I'm just gonna say, you got to be mature. You need to grow up and think about what's best for everyone.
Yeah.
And do you want to be going over to your ex's place every day, every week, to walk the dog or spend an hour with the dog for the next 5 years when you've just broken up with this person who made you miserable? I know it is. I am being harsh
Yeah.
because, oh, I mean,
Like, yeah.
get down to it, make a decision. And I mean, can therapy help if you're really having a hard time with missing a pet?
Oh yeah,
Or
totally.
is it just a matter of time?
Yeah, therapy can help. Also,
Mhm.
like, you can volunteer at the local shelter, like meet other pets, walk
Mhm.
your friend's pet, like pets in general are so healing. And so, yeah, you can help yourself heal in a lot of different ways from those tough decisions. So, yeah.
So something that popped up for me is, I think, especially as a person who is animal friendly, vegetarian, and have lots of friends who are as well, I think subconsciously that when people are seen as a pet owner or parent, they go through a breakup. I think that a lot of people, whether or not they would admit it or not, don't want to be seen as the
Yeah.
person who is leaving the pet.
Yeah.
Right? What do you
Yeah,
say about, and
totally.
people might judge you for this, right?
And those aren't your people.
Okay.
But yeah, I mean, you can,
Mm.
if your friends have questions and everything and it's coming from a well-meaning place, you can explain the logic. You don't owe an explanation to anyone, but you can try to explain that logic. And at the end of the day, it's not their life. If they don't
Yeah.
understand why you
Yeah.
made that decision, they have a different value system. Like,
Mhm.
and that's totally fine. You know, you can say, hey, I know that my pet is going to be safe and loved and well taken care of by my ex, and I was able to put that aside because I want to travel for the next 9 months. Like, I know that's what I want to do,
Yep.
and I know that this is a great place for them. So
Yeah.
um if you do have a plan, consider asking for that agreement in writing. Um,
Mhm.
Also, like, yeah, I didn't have it in writing.
Mhm.
And I just happened to have like a really great ex who was like a very very stable understanding, and we were able to have very like polite and conscientious and like no ego conversations about these things. And I know that not everyone is dealing with that, especially because there's a breakup happening, like something went wrong somewhere.
Oh, yeah,
So
I know that. So I'm wondering if maybe this could be a cool resource to add into our Facebook community. Are there perhaps templates online that you can get
oh
about? I never thought about that, but
yeah, I mean,
let's
I
look into
think
that.
I mean, even just like a sentence would do with a signature is just
Oh,
saying
okay.
like
I've
this
gotcha.
pet in case of the relationship dissolving, this pet
Uh-huh.
belongs to this person, date it and sign it, keep that as a record. Because at the shelter, like we had, people bringing in their pets. If they did not have proof of ownership, they could not relinquish the pet with us. Proof of ownership was anything with your name on it, like a bill of sale, adoption paperwork, veterinary records.
Mhm.
So just keep in mind, if the animal is yours, to make sure you get those purchase papers, adoptions,
Does a
vet
selfie
bills
count?
all paid for by you with your name on them. So if if the dog is 100% you, just know if there's anything with your ex's name on it, they can claim ownership. So
Yeah.
if you're splitting bills or something, have them Venmo you and you put the full thing on your card. Don't split it.
Yeah.
Don't have them front the cost. That's just something, to keep in mind. And that was just like, I don't know, I'm not a animal rights lawyer or anything like that. That was just how the shelter I was at handled like legal ownership questions, is when someone came in, and you could see how this goes badly. Someone comes in with their wife's cat, and they're like, "Oh, we're relinquishing the cat today." And I'm like, "Oh, I had this really great conversation actually."
I was hoping you were going to bring in some
Yeah.
stories. So
Yeah,
yes,
so here's a
please.
story. This guy brought in a cat in a carrier. He's like, "Okay, we're getting rid of the cat." And I'm like, "Okay, you first of all, you suck for putting it like that." Um and I'm
No
like, "Okay, so
judgment.
we're just going to need proof of ownership." And he's like, "Here it is." And I'm like, "Okay, this is all in your wife's name." And he's like, "So?" And I'm like, "Well, she needs to be here for the relinquishment then, because she's the owner." And he's like,
Oh,
"You don't understand. I'm a lawyer." And I'm like,
oh, big
"Cool, bro.
man.
Cool. Also, your wife needs to be here." And he never came back. Because as you can
Badass, Claire.
imagine, yeah, God, like people are so crazy. That is in an effort to control those situations where it is like maybe a bad breakup or a divorce,
Yep.
and your
Yep.
partner is trying to like punish you in some
Yep.
way by giving your pet up.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so, if it's always better to be safe than sorry, like obviously you date someone because you think they're trustworthy and you think they're loving and you think they have your best interests at heart. And sometimes you find out that they are 100% not the person you think they are. You always hope to have these good, I mean, not to say amicable, because they were very painful and
Mm-hmm.
sad, but
Yeah.
like with my ex-fiance, it was very much like we were not out to get each other
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
after the relationship, but you can have those horror stories happen. So
Yeah, and when we're going through a breakup, we're not always at our best. We're not
no.
acting our best. A breakup can make, the best of people kind of jerks.
Yeah,
And
not to
and
excuse
yeah.
anyone for
No, I mean,
fucking bringing your dog to a pound.
no, of course not. It's just you don't know what's going to happen during the breakup. As lovely
Yeah.
as the person seems, before you know it, they're using the pet against you in some weird way. It's just better to have these agreements in place.
Yeah,
Is
have
what I'm
them in
saying.
place. And also,
Yeah.
then hey, all my ducks are in a row. And if something does ever happen, there's no way that this can be like
Yep.
taken out of my hands. So, yeah, so just, some things to keep in mind.
All right. So, as we've touched on, and I hope people believe us, a breakup can come with a lot of upheaval in various ways. So, some people move, some people stay with a friend, a lot of people stay with their parents for, a few months. Very normal. I don't want anyone to feel bad who does that. Like everyone is doing that these days. So, a lot of people experience depression and need to cut back on responsibilities. Even as much as you might love your pet, if you are dealing with some mental health issues, you might really not need the responsibility of caring for another living thing.
Yeah. And that depends on your situation. Like talking about depression, like we are coaches, not mental health professionals, but some people do say that having a pet helps them with their depression because it's a reason to get out of bed. But, look at your own situation.
People, absolutely.
Yeah.
I'm kind of saying, don't judge yourself if you can't.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, I knew someone, my ex was an alcoholic, and when he would go on a bender, he wouldn't take care of his dog. And it was very troubling. All right. So point being though, so I think that we, in addition to not letting people grieve a breakup, I think that there's often not an understanding in our society around the fact that it just can become untenable to look after an animal after breakup. It does not mean that you didn't take it seriously before. It's just, it's not your current reality.
Yeah.
So if this is your situation, Claire, as our resident expert, what do you think are some things to consider if this does become your reality and you need to rehome
either temporarily or
okay, all right, we can
forever
talk about both.
You need to rehome. Yeah, because some of these are for temporary. Like
so
I know
you can
for the next couple months, I'm looking for a place right now, but right now I'm staying with my parents and I can't take the dog there, but I'm gonna find a place and I'm gonna take care of my dog eventually. What do I do? It can't stay with my ex. Maybe your ex doesn't want the dog. What to do? And you're like, I'm committed to figuring this out. I just need a little time. If that's the case, there are low-cost boarding options. The shelter that I was at did have low-cost boarding. I think it's like $20 something a day, which some people
that
can't
does
do.
add up.
It does add up.
But some people might be able to afford that.
If you're like, I want to make this work, I just need a little time, that's an option.
I mean, even so let's see. I'm just now it's gonna stay in my mind.
You can pay a lot more than that.
I mean, that's not that bad. I mean, that's gonna be what, $500-600 for a month.
Yeah.
So okay. All right, that could make sense. Okay.
Yeah. It could make sense, especially if you're not paying rent during that time. You're staying with parents or something. Okay, so there's another option. There's long-term in-house boarding. You can go on like rover.com. There's probably other websites too of someone who's like, I just like having dogs at my house or cats at my house. And your cat can go and stay with them for 3 months, and that's generally cheaper because they're using their own house and it's kind of like a foster. You are paying them. So that's just a thing. That's if you don't have a friend or a friend of a friend who is open to doing a long-term or, a couple weeks of having your dog at their house. So, definitely look to your network first.
Yes. Yep.
Yeah,
you might have a friend. Yes, yeah. And this is the same for lots of breakup situations. This is why we have friends and family and loved ones. Try and resource to your network when you can.
And like, see, if you have like colleges in the area or something, like see if there's a student or something who'd like to have a dog for while they're there for the
Mm-hmm,
spring
mm-hmm.
quarter or spring semester.
If you tell your friends that this is the situation, and for everyone to please put the word out, you
Yeah.
never know what's going to happen.
Exactly. Yeah,
Mhm.
there's
Yeah.
probably an acquaintance or someone in your network, extended network who can help,
Yeah.
like people do like to pitch in. Also,
Yeah.
if you are in the military, keep in mind there's long-term fosters specifically for military families. So if you're like, I really want to keep my dog, but I know I go out on deployment in 3 months for, 6 months, check in with those fosters. They're limited because there's such a big need for them.
Hmm.
But see if there's someone in your area who specifically fosters military pets, because that's a huge need. And see if you can get those resources in place so that you can keep your pet long term, because you're not always going to be on deployment. So yeah, keep that in mind. And if you have space in your home right now, maybe consider listing yourself. Like if you're not in this situation and you're like, oh, I'm stable, I have like lots of room, I have a backyard. Hey, like maybe volunteer as being a military
Aw.
foster. So yeah, because then you can have a dog for 6 months and have that. So yeah. And then there's also, if none of those options are going to work and neither you or your partner can keep your pet, you can try to rehome your pet. 100% try to rehome your pet within your network if at all possible. So maybe, like we talked about, placing with a friend or a friend of a friend for temporary, see if anyone in your network is actually looking to adopt a pet from
Yeah.
you.
Yeah.
And, that is the way to go. If you can do that, please try to do that. Because shelters, although they are filled with caring people who are doing the best they can to care
Yeah.
for your pet and all of the pets that are there who really love animals and who are trying their best to find them homes, even in the best situation, the shelter is not a home.
Yeah.
Dogs are not, they're not going to thrive in a kennel situation.
Mhm.
And so if you can at all avoid that possibility at all, you want to make sure you do. And that was, I can tell you 100% people get into this line of work because they love animals and
You
they're
would
going to
have
be there.
to.
Yeah, you like,
I
yeah, people in
You'd have to
shelters,
really,
like
really love it. I mean, this wouldn't be for me,
yeah,
not because I don't love animals, but just being around so many different
yeah,
ones day in and day out. And I also have allergies. So, I mean, this wouldn't be
yeah.
something I would do, but I know that
It's
a lot
so
of
funny.
people, it is a bit of a almost hobby for a lot of people who go into this work.
Yeah, I mean it's something, you're not paid very well.
Mm,
The hours are terrible. It's mental and emotional, mentally and emotionally damaging.
mm,
And you're doing it because you love these animals so fucking much.
mm.
But no matter what, it's still a shelter. It's still not going to be the best situation for that animal. You want to make it as short a stay as possible, get them in and out as quickly as possible. Because shelters aren't long-term homes. They are not a home. So if you can avoid it, please do. But the shelter is there as a safety net, as a last
Mhm.
resort.
Yeah.
Um, Here's where it's going to get depressing. So, brace yourself. But if you live in a big city, for example, Los Angeles, or, you know, please do whatever it takes to not take your dog or cat to the shelter. Even low kill or no kill shelters, even though they're a better bet than like county shelter, they do not guarantee that your pet will find a home.
Yeah.
No kill does not mean absolutely no kill. I
Mm.
can tell you that right now.
Oh God.
So, you just try to
Uh-huh.
avoid that as much as possible. If your pet is over 6 months old, the chances of them getting out of like a high kill shelter is very, very slim. So if you
Mhm.
can avoid it, please do.
Okay.
Um, Yeah. So I know that's really sobering, but it's very important for me to share.
Mhm.
That said, please donate to high kill shelters.
What you mean financially?
Yeah,
Yeah.
financially,
Okay.
if you are looking to support animal shelters, you can donate your money, you can donate your time. If you can do that emotionally, you can, you know, donate like blankets and toys,
All right.
look at Amazon wish lists. The thing
Mhm.
is that people don't want to support high kill shelters because they don't like what's happening there, and I get
Okay.
that. However, what's happening there is worsened by the fact that no one is donating. All the
Uh-huh.
money is instead going to no kill shelters, which have a lot of resources in order to keep those
Oh,
pets
and I'm
safe.
wondering, do people who
But
even
yeah,
want to adopt a pet, are they even more likely to go to a no-kill
yeah,
shelter because they think they're supporting the
100%. Yeah.
no-kill shelter by adopting a pet from
Yeah,
it?
they're voting with their dollar. However,
Oh,
the high kill
right.
shelters exist to serve underserved populations, high pop uh high population, like, highly populated areas with
Okay.
low income,
hmm
people who have no other resources than to take their pets to that high kill shelter, or, street dogs and street cats, so it's a feedback loop. If you want to
Okay.
improve the statistics on those high kill shelters, you need to be supporting them and
Yeah, so
not
start there
demonizing
maybe
them.
when you're ready to
Yeah.
get a pet. Okay.
Yeah.
All
Yeah.
right.
Start there. So if you
Mhm.
can, if you come from an affluent area, go more into the city and look at those county shelters, because, some of it's really terrible. I won't share any
Okay.
more
And all
here
right.
because I don't want to just like devastate everyone. But
That's good
but yeah, so
information.
that's
Mhm.
my soapbox. That said, no kill shelters are obviously doing wonderful work as
Yep.
well, but it's just so upsetting to see, my at the time when I was working at a no kill shelter, I was, watching like the people who just happen to work at high kill shelters be demonized for being terrible people
Yeah,
because they were
so
euthanizing animals.
yeah,
And it's
these
like,
shelters aren't there because they want to
yeah,
put down animals.
no,
It's,
fuck
I
no.
mean, they're run by the state, right?
It depends on the city, but usually they have a contract with the
Right.
city or
Okay.
with the
Okay.
state. So
Uh-huh.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
And
So
unfortunately,
anyway,
it is the reality that we have lots of either stray or
mhm,
homeless pets, and this is for them really. But there's only
yeah.
so much they can do, is what you're saying.
Yeah, exactly.
Mhm.
And you can
Oh
improve what they
boy.
can do by
Yeah.
donating. So,
All right.
yeah. So if you are in this spot where you have to put a pet in the shelter, like trust me, I understand. Like you
Yep.
can get there. You can find yourself in that situation.
Yep.
Like only love here, like
hmm
obviously there's those people who walk in and they're like, here's another story. Um, there are those people who come in with their 10-year-old cat who's like, she's getting old, and they like relinquish her.
What?
And then they go and they're like, can I adopt this kitten? And we're like, no, sorry.
That's shocking.
Who are just like upgrading to the next thing. Those are the people we're like, you're
Fuck.
the worst.
Oh,
But
wow.
trust me, when you have no other recourse and you come
Huh?
into a shelter, you will not be faced
Mm.
with judgment.
Mm.
We understand, we're there to help you
Mm.
because we want to help the people who are in that really, really tough spot. So just know, you will not be shamed if you have to do that. So but if you have to bring your pet to the shelter and you're like, fuck, I live in a big city, what do I do? There's a workaround. It's kind of frowned upon by the people in the
Okay.
shelter.
Go
So,
for it.
but this is a workaround. So, generally you are limited to what shelter you can bring your pet to based on where your address is, your living address. So like, for example, I was in Santa Barbara. Someone from LA couldn't just come to Santa Barbara and bring their pet to the nice Santa Barbara shelter.
Mhm.
Um, they had to live in the county at the time. They've kind of expanded it out a little bit, But if you know someone who does have an address in a more affluent area, you can switch the ownership to them. So they legally become the owner, and then they can bring the pet to the shelter.
Okay.
So
That's,
then
yeah,
that way
this is complicated, but
yeah, it kind of reminds me a lot of I mean, this is an extreme correlation, but it reminds me, I mean, not at all, but it's kind of like getting your pet into a better school.
No, I
You
understand.
know?
That makes sense.
Yeah. So it's frowned upon. So I wouldn't be like, oh, we did this, to the people at the shelter.
Right.
Um,
Be discreet,
yeah,
people.
be discreet, but like you can switch the ownership by, I mean, there's other ways, but you could have like, just take your pet for a checkup and have the new owner be the person whose name is on that
Okay.
veterinary record, and they bring that in as their proof of ownership. So
All right.
yeah. So if you do put your pet in the shelter, like, and you're missing them, as you're doing the relinquishment, ask what the policy is for calling to check if they've been adopted. They will definitely never give you the information of the new owners. It's a
Yeah.
total violation of
Uh-huh.
privacy. However, you can call for updates of like, oh, have they been adopted yet? And,
Okay.
they'll either say yes or no. Sometimes they'll be like, yeah, they were really sweet and we're really excited about it. Like I tried to, reassure people who were really upset. So, you're likely not going to be allowed to visit your pet when they're in the shelter. So also keep that in mind, but you can call for updates. Also, PS, unrelated, happier news. If you have adopted your pet from the shelter in the past and you're just like listening to this episode for funsies,
because you love animals.
The shelter employees love happy updates.
Oh my God,
Please
I can
call
sense
us.
that.
Yeah. Like especially like if we ever got this would happen occasionally. We get an email with pictures and they're like, look, he got a new toy. He's doing so well, especially if it's like, not just like the week after. Like we had some people who would give us an update like every year. Those pictures, I'm telling you, they make the rounds around the shelter. We're like, going over our private radios. We're like, oh my God, Buddy's owner just sent us an update. Like, come up to the shelter office when you have time to see pictures of him in his new home. Like it really, like these people are putting so much blood, sweat, and tears into their work. And any sort of like good news is so, so welcome because, I always would joke with new adopters. I'm like, please give us updates because, like best case scenario, if you don't give us updates is we never see this pet again. Like,
yeah. So, maybe tag the shelter, send them an email. I mean, this is just a good way to express gratitude.
Yeah. Tagging on social media too. Yeah, exactly. Just please let us know. So yeah, that was just my little thing. Yeah. And then also if you're looking for resources, in general, this isn't just like if you have to relinquish your pet, but if you need veterinary care, if you need like help, if you need boarding or something like that, call. And if one place doesn't have what you need, ask them for recommendations because it's a really small world and everyone knows everyone else. So that's a way to like find those resources if you're having trouble like looking at them online. There's usually subsidized veterinary programs if you look hard enough. So if you're in a tight spot and an emergency happens, you won't be without support. There are credit cards specifically only for veterinary bills. So you apply for them when your pet gets in trouble. So that way you can like cover the bills. All of this. Get insurance on your pet.
All right. Yeah.
Cool.
Super. Thank you so much for all of that information. Sometimes you do have to face a lot of tough decisions after a breakup, from the fact that you need to rehome your pet. You might have tried everything and it's not working out, and a shelter is the only option. Even deciding to move can be a hard decision. You might lose friendships. And so I think it's good that we're just providing, information about some of these hard truths that you will that you could possibly face when
it's a responsibility. Yeah. Like when you adopt an animal, you are you are saying, hey, I'm going to be responsible for their welfare for the rest of their life. Like
Mhm.
you're going to have to make sacrifices and things. And, you know, especially if that responsibility is coming to an end, you want to see it through in the best way you
Yeah,
can. So,
agreed.
yeah.
All right. So, a hidden dynamic of many domestic abuse situations is that of pets. I don't think
Yeah.
that people realize this, but it's a huge issue. So, it
Yeah.
can keep people in harmful situations because they don't want to leave a pet because they're
Yeah.
going to miss the pet. It can cause concern because you might be leaving an abusive partner who could be left responsible for the pet and
Yeah.
who, could abuse or neglect the pet.
Yeah.
So, a lot of people stay in unsafe situations because of this.
Yeah.
So, what should people do?
Yeah. So, first of all, if you're in danger, put yourself first. 100%. You have to protect yourself. However, that doesn't always mean you have to leave your pet. There
Okay.
are resources for you,
Mhm.
many more options than you think you have. Even if you're like, I'm leaving in the next minute, you know, scoop your dog up on the way out.
Mhm.
There are things you can do. So there's more resources than you think. So number one, you can relinquish your pet. You don't have to. You can drop them off at the shelter and be like, I can't do this, you know.
Uh-huh.
At least like the shelter, you know, especially if your abuser has you know, I know that I don't have the statistics on this, but sometimes it's kind of like, well, if you leave or if you do anything, I'm going to hurt the animal,
Oh
you
my
know, and that
gosh.
can be
Yeah.
like a factor.
Mhm, mhm. Or
So,
just
you
that
know,
they're not going to look after it. Yes, and
yeah.
this is a thing. I worked in a DV shelter for quite a while, and the partners, there's all sorts of stuff that comes into
Yeah.
play when there's partners and children involved.
Yeah.
Like good luck, I'm going to do this or that, and oh, it gets so dirty and
Yeah.
nasty
And
and
so,
oh.
yeah, so like the working with the DV shelters, you brought up a point that I hadn't thought about. Sometimes they'll like liaise with a local shelter to
Yeah,
help you.
so right, if you were to go to a shelter, and you had communicated with the shelter beforehand, or even last minute, they
Yeah,
will
it can be
very,
last
very
minute.
likely be able to help you in some way to figure
Yeah.
this out.
Figure
Mhm.
this out, you know, whether you're like, hey, I'm never coming back here. So, you know, find a new home for my pet. That's one option. But you know, check with your local humane societies, ASPCAs, volunteer-based shelters, animal rescues. If you can do any legwork before you run, please do. But that said, like we had situations where someone would show up at the front desk and be like, hey, I'm running away from an
Mhm.
abuser.
Mhm.
I don't know what to do with my pet. And we've been able to sort out a long-term for free boarding situation for them. At the shelter I was at, we had, you know, it was donation based or free. It was completely anonymous. The animals were kept out of sight of the public, and they were in the management system under pseudonyms. So both the dog's name and the owner's name was changed. No one but like one manager even knew the real names of the
Mhm.
people and the dog involved. So it was like it would be impossible for an abuser to find that animal. So,
What
you know,
about
some
having a third party? I know that if it's in a domestic violence situation, sometimes you need to have a third party who even communicates with your ex. What about having either a third party or the cops go and get the pet? Can you do that?
I have no idea how the cops work.
Uh-huh.
I don't know about the third party either. Each shelter does have different policies and everything, so I can only really speak to what
Well,
we
I'm saying like
do.
a friend. I guess every
Yeah.
situation is different. It would
Every
depend on the
situation is
situation.
different.
Yeah.
I like from what we would do, I'm sure having a friend come to the shelter and handle that interaction like with the shelter and being like, hey, this is my friend's dog, they're in domestic violence like
Mhm.
protection or something. Like you know, like there may be some like necessary things, like if you're staying at a domestic violence shelter, maybe like having someone there call the shelter and be like, yeah, this person's legit, like we do
But
need
if
this
you
help.
had if you had fled and now you either had your own place or you were staying somewhere where you could have the animal,
Mhm.
could someone then go back to the home and get the animal? You know what I mean? So
Oh,
that you don't have to go back there and see your ex and have a confrontation about the animal.
yeah, like I would not recommend ever going back to the
Right,
home
exactly.
personally.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. So that's, I was thinking more about the shelter situation. Just so I don't know how to handle that situation. Certainly do not go into that situation
Right.
yourself. Have
Yeah.
someone
No.
else handle it.
Mhm.
And I'm sure that the domestic violence resources in your area will be able to advise you better on how to handle that.
Mhm.
Um yeah, so that's that. I don't know if you'd be able to get the police involved to go and pick up
Yeah. If
your
the
your
pet was
pet.
in your name, would you? Okay. Yeah, I guess we're not too sure. We're not too sure,
Yeah,
but mhm.
I don't know if that would be an option either, so I
All
don't
right.
know.
Yeah. Take
Um,
care of yourself and then make an action plan. There's lots of
yeah,
resources, such as friends, such as shelters,
yeah.
such as maybe things that we haven't even thought of here.
Yeah, and so,
Mhm.
like, yeah, even if you have no one else to turn to, talk to those shelters because we do try to help
Mhm.
in that way. And you can, there was one pet that stayed at the shelter for 8 months while she got set up and was able to come back and get her pet. So,
Wonderful.
and that was just like so fulfilling for us to be able to like, oh, fuck yeah, like we
Mhm.
did it.
That's great.
Yeah.
Oh, such good information, Claire. Thank you so
Hmm.
much. Is there anything else that you want to add? I actually have a question. This is kind of more of a fun thing, but I'd
Yeah,
love it
please.
if you could tell. Oh, yeah. And please, I want everyone to know our hearts go out to you. I have
Yeah.
personally been through this. I know how painful it can be. And yeah, this is not fun to figure out, but hopefully we gave you some ideas and resources if you do.
Mhm.
So I want to know because I know you're such a big fan of fostering. So so like how does fostering work? Why would you maybe want to do it? What would you need to have in place?
Mhm.
Like I want to give you, space to plug this because I know it's something you're passionate
Yes.
about.
Oh my God. Yeah. Fostering is amazing, especially if you're not sure what the future is going to bring, because
Okay.
it's basically you are opening up your home to an animal that you will not have long term. So, the idea behind fostering is you're either a medical foster, so you're helping them recover from, maybe a surgery, or maybe they have ringworm is an intense
Oh
foster.
God.
But
Woo!
that, or perhaps they have oh man, I'm forgetting the name of it now. But there's a lot of reasons you might need to have a medical foster for an animal, because homes are the best place to heal. A shelter is
Okay.
not conducive to healing a lot of times,
Okay, so you would
especially
be
if it's
responsible though for shots and medicine
um
potentially. Potentially.
so the shelter would cover those things. So
Oh, but
whether
you'd
you
you'd
do
need
them
to do it though. I mean, okay.
yeah, so it
Okay.
depends on your comfortability. If you're not
Mhm.
comfortable giving shots, then like you wouldn't get a medical foster that
Okay.
requires that.
Okay.
The
Oh, so they
shelter
really work with
will.
you.
Yeah,
Okay.
exactly. So, like if someone is a vet tech, they'd be great with a more advanced medical foster. But if you're
Hopefully.
like, hey, I just want something super easy and friendly and I just want to help them find a home, then you could do just a regular adoption foster. And what that means is that you're gonna have, say it's a dog. The idea behind a foster is not only will it be better for the animal to get out of the shelter environment, perhaps a lot of times we look for shelter for pets who and I keep saying we just because I was the foster coordinator at
Okay.
one
That's all right.
point, so I am no longer in the industry. So, but usually, people come to a shelter to adopt an animal. So there's a lot of positives to having the pet at the shelter, because people are coming in specifically looking to adopt an animal. However,
Mhm.
if it's been a little while and maybe the dog isn't doing well in the shelter, or the cat, finding a foster can help, because the foster is kind of now acting as like the PR spokesperson for this animal. So
Aw.
if you have a foster dog, that means, you know, making sure you're going out into public, they've got their little adoption vest on, you're going to breweries, you're going on hikes,
Yeah, talk about
people are
this.
like, oh my God, your dog's wearing a vest. What does that mean? And you're like, well, actually, it's not my dog. He's just staying with me right now because we're looking for a home. He's so great. He sleeps on the bed. He's really gentle. Like, he
Or
met
maybe he
my
doesn't
niece.
sleep
He's
on the
5 years
bed.
old. Yeah, exactly. And so you can be like, I've had this dog living in my home. I get to know him on a level that even the shelter staff don't get to see because it's not a home.
Oh, can you post
And
pics? Like, would you send your
yes,
pics out?
yeah, social media is a big deal. It also helps, you know, get pictures of dogs in homes to post on the shelter's website
Yeah,
and
a little bit
social
better
media.
than
Yeah,
pictures from the
exactly. It's
shelter.
easier
Oh,
to
interesting.
see for potential adopters to see the pet in their own home if they've got a picture of a dog in someone else's home, as opposed to like behind the bars and looking real sad, you know?
So you said there's medical,
Yeah.
and then there's pets that have been in the shelter who
Yeah.
need
And
somewhere else.
there will
Okay.
sometimes be like a behavior foster. So maybe they're really, really shy in the shelter.
Uh-huh.
And your job is to be like, you know, gas them up and like help them gain some confidence. So if you have experience training dogs, that can be really helpful. Some dogs really need a buddy. So if they're very shy, if you have a confident dog at home, fostering a shy dog, the confident dog will teach the shy dog how to be more confident. So it's like
Beautiful,
really
beautiful.
cool. It's really cool.
Do you think that for a couple who is at the exciting stage in the relationship
Yes.
where they're thinking about maybe getting a pet /
Yes.
one of you getting a pet, and for the time being you both take care of it, as we said earlier, is fostering a good option to see if it works and to learn about?
100%.
And do
Yeah.
you think that couples do this? Would you recommend it?
Yeah, I
What do you want to say about it?
100% recommend it. Chances are you might fall in love with whoever you foster,
Oh,
but
that's
if
all
you
right.
don't,
Mhm.
great, because you're not stuck with that animal now that you like want, you know, it's kind of like having a
Well,
trial run.
yeah, and I think it's good that in this situation you would have kind of like a container over things. You know, you'd say we're going to have this pet for 3 months and see how it
Mhm.
goes, and then make a
Yeah.
decision after, or
Yeah,
even make a
and
decision about adoption after so long, right?
yeah, yeah, like fosters will depend, the length of time will depend
Okay.
on the shelter. Like
Oh,
everyone
okay.
kind of does it differently.
Uh-huh.
Some animal rescues don't even have a physical location and they're 100% foster based.
Oh, I didn't know
So,
that.
yeah,
So they're
so
just
you'll be
waiting. They have people on call.
exactly. So you can like there's usually a little bit of training. You know, like not much, but a little bit of training to like so they, you know that you're responsible and you're going to be able to take care of this
Okay,
animal.
do they do house checks?
Depends on the organization.
So what is just what are some of the basics that you would need to have in place for both dog and cat? And then we'll wrap things up.
Yeah, so cool thing about fosters is usually they'll give you all of the supplies as well. You will also
Oh.
not be responsible for medical bills or anything like that. So yeah, so it all really depends on the organization, but generally everything will be provided that you need, as well as training. So there's that. Yeah, it was kind of a thing with the fostering. It's like a frustration, is foster fails, which
Yeah.
are celebrated but also frustrating because now, so basically a foster fail is when someone goes into it to foster an animal and they love the animal, they want to keep it forever, they end up
Oh.
adopting. That means for the shelter they need to find someone else to foster the next animal. So if you do decide, I actually
Oh.
don't ever want to adopt
Uh-huh.
the
Uh-huh.
pet, at least not yet, that's actually a wonderful thing, because if you do find a home for that cat or that dog in your network, then you're available to take another dog or cat
Mhm.
into your home. And so you and your partner may end up having 3 or 4 dogs over the course of your relationship because you keep
over the course.
finding
Okay,
homes
right.
for them, you know?
Oh, and that could be a really cool thing to do as a couple,
Yeah,
actually.
exactly. Yeah, it's like huge, like, huge boost. It
Oh,
is
trust
sad to
me.
say
Yep.
goodbye, but
Mhm.
it's so good, and you can both feel really amazing about what you're doing. And if your life gets busy, you get a promotion, you start having to have lots of time at work, or maybe you have to switch cities and move for work, or maybe you
Yeah.
break up, whatever, you can give the foster dog or cat back, and it's no harm, no foul. It's
I like
very,
this. I like
yeah,
this. I'd love
fosters are
to speak
amazing.
with anyone who has, experience
Oh
with
yeah.
fostering with their partner. Yes,
One
my dear.
more point. There's one more. It kind of falls under medical foster,
Okay.
but another thing is that sometimes animals come into the shelter who are um you know old or having failing health, who are not very, like, quote, adoptable.
Mm-hmm.
And so those may turn into very long-term fosters, which for you may work really well for your situation. Um, you know, uh, like, if there's a 12-year-old dog comes into the shelter, he's got arthritis, he's like kind of questionable about other dogs, he just wants to be left alone and sleep all
I
day,
love geriatric dogs
Yeah,
so
like
much.
that dog, he's gonna really struggle to find a new home. He's not gonna
Mm-hmm.
do well in the shelter, sleeping on the concrete. It's not gonna be good for him. But he might live 6 months, he might live 2 years. We don't know.
Yeah.
And you as a foster, you could keep that dog for the rest of his life, have all of
Mm-hmm.
your veterinary care taken care of by
Mm-hmm.
the shelter. You don't have to invest any money in this dog. All you have to do is love them until the end of their days.
And a lot of them are easier to take care
Oh,
of,
so much
very
easier.
well behaved. And
Mm.
I mean, this would probably be what I would do, to be
Yeah.
honest. I
Yeah.
actually was just thinking, so I'm about to move, and my building doesn't even allow cats
Oh
and dogs.
no.
So it's gonna be a little while.
Yeah.
I think it's good though, because once COVID dies down, as you know, I have lots of travel plans. So it's
Yeah.
probably not my time anyway. But
Oh, yeah.
I'm going though for the tortoise, girl.
Mhm.
So this is a little off, but did you ever get tortoises, or was your shelter
It
only
was
for?
it was only dogs and cats where I was working,
Okay.
but
Yep.
every shelter is different.
Because
So,
also tortoise fostering is a thing as well, and
yeah,
adoption,
because they
because
live
a
to like
lot of
70.
yes, and people don't realize the commitment they're making, and a
Yeah.
lot of people are very ignorant and think that you can let them off into the wild, and you can't. Once a tortoise has been domesticated, it
Mhm.
can't be released back into the wild. It won't adapt, and so a lot of people will try it, and the tortoises will get discovered and they'll be taken in, or a lot of people realize that that's not what they can do, and
Yeah.
get kind of I think getting a tortoise seems exciting in the moment, but
Uh-huh.
after so long, they give them up. So
Yeah.
maybe I'll do that. So if you're in Denver and you'd like me to watch your tortoise, hit me up.
One last thing.
Are you sure?
I know, because you were talking about housing and not
Mm.
being allowed to have animals. Um, if you are seeing a therapist, talk to them about emotional support animals. I don't like how people can abuse this. However, if you are already seeing a mental health professional, ask
Mhm.
what they can do to help you work out housing with your
Oh,
animal,
right. This is a
because
thing
there
now.
are
Huh.
laws protecting people who have an emotional support animal so that you can more easily find housing. So just look into that if that applies to you. If you don't have any mental health issues right now, please don't abuse it.
Yes,
Because it
please,
really
because this is
dilutes.
becoming also an
Yeah.
issue that people who have very legitimate reasons for this are
Yeah.
not being trusted, and it
Yeah.
bothers me because I know a couple people who who really really almost need it,
Yeah.
and it's not. I don't like that there's becoming a
Yeah.
stigma around
That's
it.
what it's for.
Yep.
Yeah.
And I mean, and this is another hard truth. If you have a pet,
Mhm.
and you are apartment hunting, you will find buildings that will not accept it. This is part of being an owner, and you're
Yeah.
going to need to take this into consideration and find a building that does. And yeah, you're going to have to probably search more. But and
Yeah.
if that's not something you want to do, then maybe take that into consideration when you're working this out with your ex. Because trust me, as someone who's apartment hunted quite a bit the last few years, a lot of buildings they're not going to have it.
Yeah.
And don't lie. Go to a building that does. Be a grown up.
Yeah. Also, you don't want to deal with lying to your landlord. Please
But
don't.
people do.
Yeah.
I know of these stories as well. That's why I'm
crazy to
saying,
me,
like, grow up.
It's just
All
you're gonna get fucked. Like, I'm just telling you.
This was the episode of Hard Truths.
Yeah.
And we hope it helped. And
Yeah.
we are standing with you if you're going through this. And we're rooting for you.
Yeah.
So thank you, Claire, for all of the information you shared. This was really exciting. I'm not sure what the equivalent would be if we came on and talked about something that I have background in, but I really loved interviewing you and think it was great. I think this was a great idea on both our parts. And we'd love to know what you think. I'd also be curious if there's a pet relationship breakup scenario that we somehow didn't cover, because we take into consideration all of that feedback.
Yes.
All right. So if you loved this, please leave us a review. And as always, hop over to our Facebook community. Breakups, Broken Hearts, and Moving On. And we'll see you next week.
Thanks for listening to X-Files, a podcast about breakups, broken hearts, and moving on.
If you liked this episode, tag us on your Instagram story so we can connect with you.
And you can find me, Claire, on Instagram at Claire Lofthouse.
And me, Janice, on Instagram at Janice Formicella. If you'd like to join our online community, find us on Facebook at Breakups, Broken Hearts, and Moving On.
And here's a preview of our next episode. The series gained a lot of notoriety because it was so kinky and it was like the BDSM thing. But unfortunately is that they aligned like kink and BDSM with being emotionally abusive. And those things are not the same.
And he makes such a big thing about this later on. I've never slept in a bed with a woman before. I'm so comfortable. This is not a compliment, okay?
No.
He just fucked you, and he's tired, and he fell asleep next to you.
Yeah, that is historically what has been known to happen across the male species.
Right! This is not your special.
Normally, he stumbles down the hallway from his playroom to go to sleep, but like, yeah.